This is the Hollywood Outsider. We are an entertainment podcast where each week we talk about the latest in movie and TV news, review any new releases. This week we're going to review Think Like a Man, trivia games, Stump the Hoe, and What's This Movie? Each week we have a flashback DVD of a little-known or obscure film or TV series from our podcasters to leave you with. And we have a topic called From the Outside In, where this week a listener's email on what makes a movie a perfect 10 for us is what we're going to discuss. You can always subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or anywhere else you can find an RSS feed. My name is Aaron Peterson. I am your host. With me today are my co-host, Scott Clark.
How you doing, Speed Racer?
I'm doing all right. Justin McCumber.
Congrats on getting through that opening. Well done.
I am so out of breath. And Brian Williams.
Hey, only 12 takes. It's a record.
Scott, are you still on vacation?
No, I'm not. But I did. I finished my guitar lesson class. I got an A. Woot!
Can you play anything?
A little bit. I can play tequila.
You can. That's ironic when you think about it.
Sure.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, they just don't write on his face after he's done playing.
Jesus Christ! How many times?
Oh, that is awesome. Let's start with movie news. Let's just get into it. Russell Crowe, Mr. Russell Crowe, the Gladiator, was cast as Noah in Darren Aronofsky's telling of the biblical story.
I'm not so sure about this. Like,
he's gonna fuck those animals up.
Noah was like a calm character. Like, he was not like a Hellraiser at all. I mean, I guess Russell Crowe can play that calm character as well too. But I don't know.
I don't think Noah's going to be going, "Are you amused?
Are you not entertained?"
Although I would rather watch that.
I don't know. I just have I'm skeptical about this being a good thing. I mean, granted it was a comedy thing, but the Evan Almighty thing was just like a travesty.
Well, I think those are kind of different movies.
Yes, but making 2 hours out of that story, I just like, what's going to be interesting about that?
I just want to see them. I want to actually see them put all the animals on the boat.
If
I want to have them
this
do
was
that.
made by any other director, I probably would have 0 to negative interest. Darren Aronofsky, though, heading it up for some reason gives me, and this is coming from someone who is not a Christian at all, actually kind of makes me wonder about this film and makes me curious about what they're going to do with it, because the man's an amazing visual director, and I think he has a great sense of the screen and how to just fill it with incredible imagery. So I'm actually kind of curious. And Russell Crowe, I think he could pull this role off easily. The guy's played everything from a badass to a very quiet, pulled back sort of character. So he certainly could do it.
I think he's just about perfectly cast. He's got the perfect hair and beard. He's hairy enough. He can pull it off.
He's hairy enough.
Yeah. Liam Neeson, though, is supposedly playing another important lead, but I don't know if that's quite a good idea.
Played one of the elephants.
What other prominent characters were there in the story of Noah?
I don't remember. I think elephants and zebras and lions. Oh my.
Well, I mean, there's people that were in the village that he tried to warn about the flood. There's family members. That kind of stuff.
Somebody went to Sunday school.
Are you going to see unicorns on a hill that didn't make it in time?
That's a really
and
good
dragons.
point.
Oh, and dragons. All right, moving on. DC's Lobo, which is a comic book about a biker alien bounty hunter, seems to be moving forward, and it found its director in Brad Peyton, who's only done family films, including Journey 2, which just came out.
Yeah, this is kind of bittersweet because Lobo is really kind of a fan favorite. He's really kind of the smart ass guy before characters like Deadpool showed up on the scene.
Okay.
And he also had kind of a darker edge than most of your other characters. But yeah, it's kind of bad because, like I say, the only movies the guy did was kids movies, like Journey 2 and Hello Kitty, Pussy Galore, or something like that.
Cats and dogs.
Cats and dogs too.
You got it on Blu-ray, admit it, Brian.
So, but the guy does have. I mean, both of those movies are heavy. They rely heavy on special effects. So that's kind of the good part of it.
Well, let's not rule him out yet. Remember, the guy that did Ghost Protocol did nothing but kids movies before that too, and we all love that movie.
He didn't do Cats and Dogs 2. He did The Incredibles. If you want to compare those two, we can try.
Giant.
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, I don't want to hold it against the guy because sometimes when you're a director trying to get a career in Hollywood, you're going to take sometimes you just got to take the roles that are offered to you, and the guy's trying to build a little bit of a resume. My main concern, though, is are they going to do a live action Lobo? And if they are, I just don't know how they're going to pull it off. I was a bit of a Lobo fan when I was a kid, and I think one of my favorite comic books ever was Lobo's Christmas story, where he was hired by the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and some other mythical characters to go kill Santa Claus.
Is this a joke?
No, and he goes in, and Santa Claus is this big burly motherfucker, and his elves are strapped, and the North Pole is just ready for action, and it is balls out combat, just bullets. And the Lobo comics have always been incredibly gory and violent, so over the top because it's cartoonish. Fantastic, funny, irreverent, really ballsy. How they're going to translate that, though, into a real live action kind of a look and have it maintain that same kind of tone, I'm really skeptical that they're going to be able to pull that off.
I don't know enough about it to really have an opinion. So I'll just say, from what you described, it doesn't sound like he's the right guy for the job. But we'll find out. And
I'm going to kind of mirror what you're saying a little bit. I know very little about this character from DC at all. And I'm probably in the minority in saying this, but I'm honestly starting to get tapped out with this comic book idea. Granted, to me, comic book movies were awesome with characters that I was at least somewhat familiar with. And granted, I didn't read the comic books as a kid, X-Men and Spider-Man, but those movies were fun because I knew them well enough to get into it a little bit. But now we keep reaching for characters that I know nothing about, and I'm a nerd. And if I don't know about these characters,
I'll give you that.
You'll give me that. Thanks, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
But if I'm not familiar with these characters, you know, how many of the people in the common folk are gonna know characters like Lobo and like the new Batman movie, which interests me so little compared to the last two because of Bane, a character I know nothing about. I just fear we're starting to see the realm where we're going to get tapped out on these comic book characters because we're running out of ones that people are familiar with.
I think they'll just start remaking them like they did with Spider-Man.
Well, I kind of have to disagree, though. I think that now we're reaching that point where if they want to continue to appeal to that real kind of hardcore geek market, they're going to have to start looking for characters and stories that how many times can we redo Superman? How many times can we redo Batman? Let's not redo Batman again. Instead, why don't we go find a character that maybe people don't know about, introduce them to the audience? And so I'm all for bringing these sorts of characters to a larger audience and making them more aware of who these guys are, as opposed to just the same ones over and over and over again. I mean, I'd rather have one Kick-Ass as opposed to two more Batman reboots.
Well, I was going to save this point for later in the discussion when we're talking about TV stuff, but this is kind of where DC is really kind of screwing the pooch here. You know, their main movie characters are Batman and Superman. Throw maybe Wonder Woman. You could kind of work in there for TV, that kind of stuff.
Green Lantern.
Yeah. Okay. but even still, there's still a lot of characters that if you were to say, okay, here's a list of DC characters, what would you like to see a movie made out of? Lobo, I don't think is too high on that list, but it's high enough. I'll give it to him. But now there's talk of a Booster Gold TV show for next year on Sci-Fi. Wow. Nobody knows who Booster Gold is, and those that do, you've got to roll your eyes at it because there's probably 150 characters before him that you would rather see a movie or a TV show made. So I don't know what DC has going on, but they are just screwing up left and right, in my opinion.
Well, let's move on. Keeping on comic book news real quick. Last piece. Guy Pearce is in talks for Aldrich Killian in Iron Man 3, which is a geneticist who's partly responsible for a piece of nanotechnology that Stark and his enemies apparently utilize.
I'm not quite sure how a geneticist is working with nanotechnology. Unfortunately, my exposure to Iron Man, especially when they start talking about the Warren Ellis run, the Extremis, I'm so unfamiliar with it. I don't even know where to start with who this character is or what he brings to the table. So what I have to go on, though, is knowing Guy Pearce is going to be involved. And to that, I say, fuck yes.
I think it's about time he got a huge part.
Yeah, he's
It'd be
kind
nice.
of he's really kind of like what Johnny Depp used to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's the guy that he takes these maybe art house, these indie movies, and you don't really see him in too many blockbusters. Now, I don't know if that's because nobody's offered him the roles, or if he just says, you know what, I'm not about mainstream. I just like acting. I'm more about the story, whatever the reasoning is. But he's been a favorite of mine for a while, and I'm glad to see him doing something like this.
That's a really good way to put that, Brian. Like when you said about Johnny Depp, what he used to be. I've always been a Guy Pearce fan, kind of like you, and I like that he's coming a little bit more in these mainstream movies. And this is going to sound like I'm contradicting myself from my last point about comic book movies, but Iron Man to me is a prime example of a comic book movie that people can relate to because Tony Stark is such an awesome character, and to throw Guy Pearce in that mix just makes me all that more happy. I'm really excited to see this movie.
Oh yeah.
Well, The Hobbit is going to be the first movie to be screened at 48 frames per second. Currently, when you go to a movie, the film that you see is screened at 24 frames per second. Well, apparently they're going to do double that. So it's going to be more of a high-definition experience, even more high definition than it already is. My thing with that is that a lot of theaters don't have the capability of that yet. So basically, they're filming it this way and forcing theaters to have to upgrade their equipment.
Now, this is where I'm going to have to go to you guys as the experts because you guys are much more film aficionados than I am. Mm-hmm. I'm a gamer, as we know, and I know I'm not supposed to bring up gaming, but a lot of the
You did sign a contract, yes.
I did, yeah. A lot of the games that are out right now are playing at 60 frames a second standard.
Different medium.
Is it? And maybe I'm asking for like a little bit of help on that because I know a lot of viewers may not understand this either. Is it because of a smaller screen, because of a console versus a projector? I mean, why is this such a big deal on film that's been around for much longer than the video game genre?
The main reason they want to do it is for motion blurring, because you will see it's very minor. It really, the average film goer isn't even going to notice the difference, but it does clarify fast moving scenes, like fast action scenes. You know how where you can't tell some of the details because the camera moves too fast and whatnot. This clarifies those areas.
So I would like Hunger Games in 60 frames per second.
Yeah,
Is what you're
I
saying?
mean, I can't imagine The Hobbit is going to have a high-speed chase or anything, but
Probably more like Fast Five, where you got the fast-moving cars and that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Okay.
it's easier to.
It'll be a little bit more detailed, and Transformers, where you've got a lot of detail and stuff like that. You moving around really fast. It's kind of hard to keep up with.
That's a great example. Transformers is a great example.
Well, with that being said, as much as I like to see a clear picture in the theater just as much as everybody else, I'm not willing to pay that much more money to go see.
Well, right now they're not saying they're gonna charge us, but if theaters have to upgrade their equipment, it will affect us. Mm-hmm. And the
buy more
price is,
popcorn.
yeah, the bottom line, buy more really expensive popcorn, buy more gold popcorn, because that's what it's gonna be. Because it's about $10,000 to upgrade each digital projector. That's a lot of money.
Drop in the bucket for it.
No, not for a theater. It's not, man.
Oh,
When you look at the books, $10,000 per theater per cinema. That's a big chunk of coin from the bottom line.
But you know they're gonna capitalize on this. Oh, see it in 48, 60 frames per second. We're gonna charge an extra $3.
That's why this is news, is because the fact that they're filming it this way means that some theaters, to have the true pure experience, are going to be forced to do that to upgrade. So
If I'm reading through the story, though, and reading stories on other websites, first, to say this is more high def is not exactly true. The number of frames that are on a screen per second has nothing to do with the definition. The definition is the number of pixels that are displayed per inch. What you're getting is twice the frames, and so, as Aaron did say correctly, there is less motion blur. Unfortunately, though, what a lot of people have said who have seen some of this footage, if you ever walk into a Best Buy or some other TV store and you see those televisions that are set to 120 hertz, and you look at them and everything that you see on them looks like it was what they call it a soap opera effect. A lot of your soap operas today are filmed in video, and they're filmed so clear and clean that they almost look almost unreal. And so when you see an image that wasn't filmed for that, put up to 120 hertz, it makes it look like one of these things. And so it removes a little bit of the grain and the texture that gives shows that look that we're all so familiar with. A 28 frames per second high definition film is not going to have a lot of that in it. And so a lot of people have complained that it looks entirely too clean. And so a lot of the sets and a lot of the costumes and the makeup when high def was first created, I know one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of the newscasters or movies that were upgraded, that were old films, you could suddenly see a lot of the cracks in the makeup. You could see things that they never thought you would see, but suddenly you're seeing it. And so you can see the seams in the costumes, or you can see where the sets don't exactly look right because nobody ever thought you were actually going to see it that clearly. With this, you're actually seeing things that much clearer, and it's causing it to look even more fake than it might already.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, though, I trust Peter Jackson to know what the fuck he's doing. And I trust him and the people who work on his technology to know what they're doing. So all of these people who are seeing video footage of this and complaining about that clarity and that soap opera look need to realize that there has still been no post-processing put on this stuff yet. They haven't put any kind of graining or any kind of filters on it. And so I can't imagine that by the time this comes out, Peter Jackson will not make this film look as beautiful and wonderful as it can without somehow ruining it for everybody.
I just get
I
nervous.
think time is too early to say anything.
I just get nervous about anything that's going to possibly increase the ticket price of a movie any more than inflation's going to be. Because
I
ticket
can't
sales,
imagine that theaters would allow that to happen because they're already under stress.
Mm-hmm.
They already know they're not getting enough people. So I can't imagine that they would actually upgrade their stuff against their own will. And if they're not going to upgrade, then whatever is being filmed, I'm sure they're going to have to somehow take frames out. So I don't really know what's going on with this. It's kind of like you guys have said. It's a strange thing of they're filming it, so they're going to show it, but who's going to show it? And if they're not going to show it, then why are they filming it? Fuck if I know.
Well, they're trying to bring about change, and they don't have to take frames out. They just can compress it. They just compress the image. So you just get the same blur effect that you wouldn't normally.
Right. So then why upgrade it unless they're thinking ahead so that, okay, this may not be viewed this way now, but maybe in 5 years when people have TVs or theaters have been upgraded, then they can show it or do whatever. I do kind of like future proofing as much as you can your movies. I don't think that's a bad thing to do.
I think they're doing the same thing that George Lucas did, where he made digital prints of his film instead of making film to basically force the digital revolution, which worked. And I think Peter Jackson's trying to try that as well.
And when you make it as beautiful as you can, then you always have that ready. So whatever new technologies come along, you've got that much better of a picture to work with as opposed to something shitty.
but
Let's move forward because you don't want to bore the audience here. Talk about frames per second. You're like, what? They want to hear about that massive hit, John Carter.
talking about boring the audience.
I'm telling you, after that flop, John Carter, which was a great movie, but apparently didn't do very well, except in Scott's opinion. It cost the studio $200 million, and Chairman Rick Ross is leaving Disney now because he cost the studio $200 million.
I feel bad for the guy because fuck Scott and all the other people out there that are saying shit about the movie. John Carter is still one of the best films I've seen so far this year. I can't imagine too many other films are going to top it. So I don't think this guy, Rich Ross, should have to step down. That said, the movie's lost a lot of money, and the captain goes down with the ship. He's the chairman. He's ultimately where all this rests on. So if they lost that much money, he's got to go.
I think it's important to note that he didn't just leave Disney. He was fired.
Yeah, he was essentially fired. They allowed him to step down.
Right.
They basically
they
said
have to.
Well,
It's on his desk.
he greenlit a huge budget.
It was he was the one on watch. Somebody's got to lose their head. So it's got to be him.
Well, let's end with some happy, entertaining news. There's a couple sequel tidbits, some things that are coming out. Number one, Gina Carano is in talks to star in Fast 6. So she's going to join The Rock and Vin Diesel and Paul Walker. Gina Carano is hot and going to kick ass. And she was in that movie that became a book, Haywire. And second piece.
That joke just never fucking gets old.
It really doesn't. Isn't that funny?
It
How
just
that-
keeps fresh every
Oh
week.
God, I wish he could make it more.
I think we were going to get it on a T-shirt. And then the best part of sequel news, the best piece of news I read all week long, was that Mel Gibson, that fun Jew hater, has been confirmed for Machete Kills, the Machete sequel. How far have you fallen?
Oh,
Well, okay.
let's-
Do you mean
let's-
how far? Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. You go.
it's let's get her name right first. It's Carano.
Oh,
Serrano was the big black guy. Help me now. I fuck you, Joe Boo, in Major League. So let's get the two people correct. I don't want to mislead our listeners here. So Gina Carano, hot white woman. Serrano, big black baseball player, man, in Major League.
Still attractive, but a big.
Still a
body.
handsome devil, and he does all the Allstate commercials now.
But he's still a devil.
Okay.
I personally wouldn't do him.
I'd give him a shot.
In the mouth.
I think she'd be personally. I think she'd be a good addition. She's athletic enough, but I'm not sure about her acting abilities. I'm sure they're coming along, but luckily, you don't have to be a great actor to be in the Fast Furious movies.
Obviously. Not many
And,
thespians in that series.
And kind of on your point, as far as Mel Gibson, how sad is it that he's actually playing a supporting actor to a supporting actor?
Yeah. He's
I know Danny Trejo is the lead in this movie. But he's generally not a lead actor. He's a supporting actor.
Mm-hmm.
And now the quote unquote, great Mel Gibson has fallen so far that he's like Steven Seagal.
Yeah. Because Steven Seagal wasn't even in the first movie. He's in the sequel. Steven Seagal was cast before Mel Gibson, basically.
Yep.
Now, is Gina Serrano going to be fighting Michelle Rodriguez?
It's Carano.
What the fuck ever. I've got this image of those two
Thank you.
tussling in my head, and
That would be nice. Basically, if she fights with any of the chicks that are in the Fast and Furious.
That was actually going to be my point, because I think
takes
Gina-
Jordana Brewster and just bashes her face in the floor. That would be nice.
That would
I
be
wasn't-
hard.
I
She's
wasn't-
all skin and bones right now anyway. She's starting to look like the Grim Reaper or whatever his name is from
and Vin
what was
Diesel
it,
just
Tales
pulls
from the Crypt?
back
Yeah.
and says, "Cat fight." What were you going to say, Scott?
I was going to say, I think Gina Carano kind of is the modern day Michelle Rodriguez, and then not a great actress, but just kick-ass female character. That's
Isn't
perfect
Michelle
for this.
Rodriguez already the modern day Michelle Rodriguez? It's not like she's 60.
Dude, she's been around for a good 10 years.
She's like 35.
Yeah, but she's
I'm
not.
sorry, the old bag.
What else has she been in since Fast 3 or whatever it was?
I don't. She's.
I mean,
Resident
I'm
Evil.
talking about in relevance. I'm talking about in relevance to Hollywood.
I see what
like,
you're
what else
saying.
has she been in since the Fast and the
I
Furious?
see what
movie?
you're saying. Okay.
Like, I mean,
I don't agree with
think-
you, but I see what you're saying.
I'm excited about it, especially seeing Mel Gibson. I don't know. That just seems hilarious to me. There was talks of him being in the last Hangover movie, which to me made a little more sense than Machete movie.
Well, do you remember? And they basically they bowed to pressures because people said, "Well, we don't want him because he's a Jew hater and everything else." So they
put him in
axed
a Mexican movie?
So I mean, he's fallen. So he was going to be in the Hangover doing whatever cameo he was going to do, and now he's doing Machete 2. I mean, dude, you're Mel Gibson. I don't understand. I mean, he's got to
It's
have
his
more.
fault. Have you listened to the latest
No,
of
no.
his little furious tirades that got released to the
No,
media?
you're missing my point. I'm not saying that he's not batshit crazy off his rocker. Hypothetically, I don't really know the guy. But what I'm saying is he's got money. Why would you even do it? I mean, obviously, pull back, take a couple years, and then come back and do something cool. But right now, Machete 2, you need to get out of the limelight.
He was kind of on the right track with that crime drama he did about, what was it, 2 years ago?
Yeah, he was. Yep.
And it wasn't a bad movie.
And then he did a movie about a beaver puppet.
Oh.
I'm sure the guy's legal bills are mounting. He has to make monies.
Stop
Yes.
calling people sugar tits. I mean,
Did he do that?
Yes.
he called a cop sugar tits.
Is that bad?
They get you a fine generally.
I mean, compare, when you kind of put it up to all the, the anti-Semi stuff he said and some of the other stuff to his girlfriend, kind of just seems like it's, somebody, you're being nitpicky.
Okay, fair enough.
Welcome to Brian's Trailer Park. The trailers this week, we've got a couple. The first one is Lawless, about some moonshiners. Got a pretty good ensemble cast, minus Shia LaBeouf. It's also got Tom Hardy, which he's one of my kind of favorite newer actors, even though he's been around a little bit. But is he starting to become the new Jeremy Renner?
Not that
He's
bad.
popping up in everything now.
got to finish.
I'd call Michael Fassbender the new Jeremy Renner before that guy.
Okay, is he joining is he in the Renner Club then?
Yeah, yeah. The Renner Ensemble. Go ahead.
Yeah.
The new Rat Pack.
The Renner Pack.
It looks good. Why do people hate Shia LaBeouf, however the fuck you pronounce it?
I don't hate him, but you got to
Phil.
admit that he looks a little standing out in an odd way in this trailer.
He looks like he's 12.
Yeah.
He kind of does, but I think that in a film, if you had two people like the new Jeremy Renner, it would kind of wear thin. I like that kind of diametrically opposed sorts of brother personalities. You've got the LaBeouf type, kind of the sarcastic loudmouth, and then you've got the quiet menace of the other brother. I think it looked pretty good, even with LaBeouf. And I'm not a hater. I don't know why people.
I want to see this movie alone. And we talked about Guy Pearce earlier, but for Guy Pearce's performance in this movie, he looks so versatile. Like his acting has become much more versatile, even from when I liked him back in the late 90s, early 2000s. His character looks awesome in this movie, and I can't wait to see it.
Okay.
And I'm not usually big on period pieces, honestly.
All right, good deal. Well, our next one is looks like it's going to be Showgirls for Women. Magic Mike, a semi-biographical movie about Channing Tatum, apparently. So I guess it's not supposedly a biography, but I guess it's taking elements from his actual past to incorporate it in the movie. So this isn't really up my alley, but I'm not all about male strippers, but that's just me.
This is Scott's dream
Fuck you.
vacation.
I refuse to make any comment on this movie whatsoever, because no matter if I say I am interested, mildly interested, or don't want anything to see with this,
Or you're semi.
you're gonna make you guys are gonna make some comment about oh yeah, Scott doesn't want to see this movie. Yeah, put your finger out of your mouth. God damn.
Man, Aaron's in a mood.
Scott
Scott's in a mood.
Scott wants
Brian,
to
I
see
think
it.
you and I should just do our own show.
You got it, brother.
I think it looks actually good, and I was surprised when I watched the trailer
Fag.
how much I enjoyed it.
They still use that word.
Oh, it's funny when you guys do it.
We don't speak it 80s insults.
Because I expect them to, Scott. You should be above that.
I actually think this movie looks mildly entertaining.
I'll bet you.
I'm not into male strippers.
You little vixen.
Channing Tatum, he actually looks charismatic in this.
He
I think
really does.
his star is on the rise.
That's not all that was.
Between this and 21 Jump Street, Jesus fucking Christ. Really? Should we just start doing the That's What She Said and just devolve this whole show?
Sorry. No, I actually think it looks really good.
I think this movie goes to more places than a movie like Showgirls or Striptease did.
I don't think Showgirls went to any places. Not any quality places.
Agreed. Exactly my point. This is a much
took
more
me to a
meaningful
few
movie.
places.
This movie is much more about the fact that he's a male stripper, is my point.
Oh. Okay.
No stripper with a heart of gold, though.
Don't they all?
They do.
I agree with you. I'm sorry. We're all acting like 12-year-olds. But honestly, we're talking about male strippers. Now, in order for us to go see this, we're going to have to lie to you and tell you that our girlfriends made us or our wives made us. We're probably going to see it because we wish we were exotic dancers because it looks like they're living the dream. And Matthew McConaughey does pop up, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Fuck!
Oh, God.
Brian, wrap her up.
Oh, all right. Well, let's see if we can pull this thing back on track here. But anyway, if you guys have a thought or a topic idea, you can always find us on Twitter at H_outsider. And you can also check us out on Facebook at The Hollywood Outsider, or you can email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsider.com. We would love to hear from you.
And the trailers are all on the website.
Exactamundo.
Yep.
Stump the Hoe.
Stump the Hoe. Each week, one of our hosts posts a trivia question to the remaining hosts in an attempt to stump their fellow hoes. Hoe stands for Hollywood Outsider, not actual prostitute. This week, it is Scott's turn, so Scott, try to stump us hoes.
All right. So I'm going to preface my question with a couple of disclaimers. Number one, this question is probably going to be extremely easy for a couple of you hoes. That said, Brian, you have to answer this one first. before either Aaron or Justin answers it. And the
So
reason is
basically, I'm the one dumbass out of the three
No, no,
of
no.
us that you don't expect to get it.
it's not it at all.
That's what you're saying.
No, not at all. You'll
Really?
understand.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because that's what I'm hearing.
No. Because if
I
we're
second what Justin said.
if were the question being posed to me, I would be in the same boat as you, and you'll understand why. The reason is because
Why don't you just
last
ask the
week-
question?
last week we talked about Cabin in the Woods, which was Joss Whedon had a big hand in, and he's got another big movie coming out in a couple of weeks that we're going to be talking about as well. So I wanted to pose a question in relation to Joss Whedon.
Shoot.
So the reason is because Aaron and Justin are probably going to find this question extremely easy.
All I know is the show's almost over and we still haven't heard the question yet.
Okay, here we go.
He's running out of tape. And he doesn't even use tape.
All right.
Just saying.
So, Joss Whedon is a very well-known director, writer, musician, apparently. I wasn't aware. Has had his hand in several live-action movies, but also has had his hand in several animated feature films. So which of I'm going to give you 4 animated films, and only one of them he did not have his hand in any way, shape, or form.
Did not have his hand.
Did not.
Okay.
So 3 of them he did, 1 of them he did not. So which of these 4 did he not have his hand in? Number 1 is Iron Giant. Number 2 is Toy Story. Number 3 is Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. And number 4 is Titan AE. Brian, you have to answer first.
I'll say Toy Story.
Toy Story.
Justin?
I'm going to go with Iron Giant.
So am I. Iron Giant.
All right, so Brian chose Toy Story.
I can promise you which one it's not, Brian.
And Aaron
Because
and Justin.
if you check Oscar.com,
I really appreciate the holding off on the chuckles until I actually finished. I know as soon as I said "tuh," you were biting your lips, you're going bye, dumbass. So thank you for waiting until after I finished story to proceed with the laughter.
no problem. We will find out the answer to that question a little later in the
Will we?
podcast.
Because I'm sitting on the edge of my seat right now.
Justin and I could be wrong.
Oh, sure.
Let's move on to the big
Yeah.
screen where we talk about new releases. And first, Scott, give us a quick recap.
All right, last week it was episode 38 titled Hose in the Woods. We talked about Cabin in the Woods, which all 4 of us actually saw, gave glowing reviews. Be sure to check that out to hear about that. We also talked about the releases for April 27th, which are the 5-Year Engagement, which was Justin's pick of the week. Also, The Pirates Band of Misfits, which is the animated / claymation feature featuring Hugh Grant as the voice of the main pirate. It was none of our picks, unfortunately, but the remaining 3 of us, Aaron, Brian, and myself, all picked The Raven. So those all came out that last week, so be sure to check those out.
And Safe.
And Safe, I apologize, I missed that one. Yeah, Safe
That's
also.
Jason Statham 12.
Jason Statham 12, yes.
Okay, now moving on to reviews of anything that's new. I saw Think Like a Man.
Finally, you're going to think like a man.
Finally. Well, I didn't say I was going to think. I just saw a movie about it. Well, what Think Like a Man is about, it's a film version of Steve Harvey's best-selling book. I'm sure you guys have all read it. The film revolves around several male single friends who get the dating tables turned on them after the women they are pursuing read Steve Harvey's book in the movie and decide to put that information to good use. You're confused, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Steve Harvey's book is central to the plot.
Okay.
It's kind of odd. It is. I thought it was about the book. I didn't think the book was part of the movie. But the movie features a predominantly little-known African-American, or just American as I prefer to call him, but whatever, cast, with the exception of Turtle from Entourage, and another token white guy that pops up every now and then. I was the only white dude in the theater, therefore my wife kept calling me white chocolate. I just thought I'd point that out. So, first of all, has anybody else wanted to see this? Anyone?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, first of all, it's not a stereotypical black movie. When I first saw the trailer and we talked about it on the show, I thought very much it was going to be like one of those Tyler Perry, oh, let me talk all crazy, make fun of white people. One of those movies. It's not. It's not really a black or a white movie. It's just a movie. Honestly, it's just a movie. There's barely any racial humor, and what little there is fairly honest. I'd give him credit for it. So it wasn't like every Tyler Perry movie that I've had to suffer through. It was actually a pretty decent movie. The friends actually seem like real friends. The way that they portray both the guys and the girls seems pretty realistic. I normally don't get in. I don't like romantic comedies. You know that, Scott, right?
Yeah.
I don't like them because they're all the exact same plot. Guy finds girl, they get in a fight, guy breaks up with girl, and then one of them realizes they really can't live without the other one, and they do something stupid to chase him down. That's every freaking romantic comedy. This one, for the most part, was pretty honest about how the real struggles and truths about dating in the real world. So I respect that. It rang really true. The film is pretty funny for most of its duration, and Kevin Hart, whose stand-up I don't like at all, I don't find him funny, but he was hysterical in the movie, as like the friend who's going through a really tough divorce and realized a little too late that single isn't as easy as he thought, and his wife beats his ass randomly.
Sounds familiar.
You guys, did you say it sounds familiar? Would you like to go see the police right now? We can file a report. There is one actress her name is Megan Good, and she is hot. I mean, she's a very beautiful woman, but she is hot. So every time she was on screen, I was in love with her. So I'd probably run away with a little Megan. The end of the film is kind of where it lost me a little bit because it starts to degenerate into that normal rom-com trap. So they spend probably 2/3 of the movie being very true and honest about how dating is. I mean, they have very different ways. They've got the non-committal guy, they've got the player, they've got, all these different variations connecting with all these different women. And Steve Harvey pops up every now and then to give like little pieces of advice, and then the story goes from there. And then at the very end, they get less honest and go cheesy about where everybody's trying to race and learn their lesson, like in the last half of them. It's just, that part lost me. It really would have been a standout movie if it wouldn't have been for that last probably 20 minutes. If it wouldn't have went that route, I would have definitely rated it higher. So overall, Think Like a Man is a solid, funny film that gets a 6.5 out of 10 for me. So, any of you guys want to see it now?
No. I want to rent
No,
it now.
not really. Sorry.
Wow. Racist.
No, it's not about race.
I'll tell you the answer. You'd be very surprised how funny it was. Mm-hmm. And for somebody that I don't like seeing comedies in the theater, and I really don't like romantic comedies because they're all the same. The jokes really rarely are very new or anything else. I liked it because it was kind of telling the truth. Because, the way that the women basically learn how do you trap a man, I agree with most of what they were saying. Because most of it's pretty right. If you really want to get a guy to stick around, this is how you should do it. So if you really want to learn some tips, ladies, you can't keep your man around, you should probably at least read the Harvey book. I don't know, maybe see the movie.
Or go watch Family Feud.
Or go watch Family Feud.
Yeah,
oh, Steve Harvey's on it?
Yeah.
I don't think he does marital or dating advice on that show.
Yeah.
So that's my review, 6.5 out of 10. And Brian, he saw, this is what we kind of call our speed round, anything that we reviewed previously, but Brian saw 3 movies in the past week because apparently he's been really busy.
Had a little extra time on my hands. Excuse me.
Take it away.
And I went to the movies, checked out Lockout. I know you reviewed it last week. Mm-hmm. And I gave it about a 7.5. It was a lot of fun. Special effects were so-so. Although it really didn't have to rely on them heavily because it mostly took place indoors. But there is one scene towards the beginning where he's riding a motorcycle type thing that was pretty horrible. And, it really didn't seem to rely on fighting as much, say, like the transporter, stuff like that. So it was just a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those to where even the wife was pleasantly surprised. So I give it about a 7.5.
Nice.
Out of 10. Also, I saw Battle Royale on a recommendation from, was it Scott?
It was Brad.
Brad, but did you read it or something like that? Is that why I keep?
No, it was the Hunger Games was like based on it. Basically, is where it came from. I think. So I brought it up.
Brad recommended it a few podcasts back. But anyway, go ahead.
That's it. Pretty interesting. It was not. I don't think most people would really like it. It was not. Like I said, this was about 10 years before Hunger Games, give or take. So you can't help but think, and having seen Hunger Games first, you can't help but see Hunger Games in this movie. But I think this would be a lot better if it was kind of Americanized, and there were some kind of weak special effects. But anyway, it was. I could kind of step back from that and just kind of enjoy the movie. I'd probably give it about a about a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
It was some pretty good action, and a couple of interesting twists towards the end there. So check that one out.
Okay.
And Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
I really want to see that. Please tell me.
I like if you like espionage, Cold War type of movies. It takes place around 1970, so there's a lot of soft lights, grays, browns. It's kind of a neat feel there, and it is kind of slow, but it does do a good job of keeping you guessing who or how many of the bad guys there really are. So a lot of great acting cast: Colin Firth, Gary Oldman, Tom Hardy, Mark Strong.
Renner.
Yeah, part of the Renner Club.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Strong, who's the bad guy in just about everything he plays, and but it is a bit slow, but overall, very good movie. I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Real quick box office recap. Just real quick tidbit. Battleship, which isn't even out in the U.S. yet, has already made over $130 million overseas. So apparently Battleship hasn't sunk. Okay. The top movies at the box office: Think Like a Man, which I saw, opened at $33.6 million, which is a huge hit. It was only in 2,000 theaters. So when most movies open in 3,000 or so, that's pretty phenomenal. It was a $12 million budget, so it's already made back everything. Advertising, its budget, everything. Number 2 was The Lucky One. That's that Zac Efron, I'm going to stalk your ass because I saw your picture in the war movie. Made $22.5 million. And Chimpanzee opened at number 4 for $10.6 million, which is actually pretty high for a documentary. So now let's move on to what's coming up, Justin.
All right, on May 4th, we have got 3 films that we're going to be talking about. The first one up is called Mother's Day. It's an American horror thriller film that's directed by Len Buisson, directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, whose claims to fame so far have been Saws 2, 3, and 4, and Repo, the Genetic Opera. And it's actually a remake of Charles Kaufman's 1980 film of the same name. The story goes that after a bank robbery gone wrong, 3 brothers head for home, hoping that their mother, who in this film is played by Rebecca De Mornay of Risky Business fame, can provide them with a getaway. But when the brothers get home, they find out that their mother lost the house due to a foreclosure, and the new owners and their party guests become unwitting hostages. Quickly, the mother arrives, and it soon becomes clear that she will do absolutely anything to protect her children. Scott, you obviously had a loving mother growing up, seeing as how respectful and proper you turned out. So how does a tale like this one strike you?
I saw this trailer and I went through 3 different phases in the 2 minutes that this trailer went. The first was Mother's Day. It's going to be another cheap horror/thriller movie based on a holiday that's just going to be ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Got about a third of the way through the trailer, like, wait a minute, this actually seems like a kind of an interesting plot. Mm-hmm. And the character, I forget her name already, but that plays the mother, it looks like she might have kind of a little edge to her that's going to make this movie interesting.
I believe her name is Rebecca De Mornay.
Rebecca De Mornay of Risky Business fame.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot the last part.
That train sequence, I still remember it.
And then the last third of the trailer, it just kind of seemed to go to a ridiculous area for me. I don't know.
Kinda?
I don't know. Like, it kind of had me about halfway through, and then I just lost it by the end of the trailer. Like, I don't see me going to see this movie whatsoever.
Me neither. My mom would be ashamed of me for taking her too, probably.
She would have figured out the ending before, like, first third of the movie. Anyway.
She would too. So,
well, considering that it's a 53% RT rating, I don't think many people are probably going to be going to see this one.
No, probably not.
All right, next up we have LOL, which is a remake of a 2008 French film of the same name. I guess LOL really didn't need any translation. And it's written and directed by Lisa Azulos, who's actually the person who wrote and directed the original French film. Along with Karim Enoz, LOL stars Miley Cyrus as a 17-year-old Lola who's dumped by her boyfriend and sets her sights on her best friend. She begins her sexual awakening and experiments with drugs, while her oblivious 40-year-old mother, played by Demi Moore, struggles to move on from her divorce. Sounds like a blast. Aaron, you must know all about teenage daughters and sexual awakenings, so give us your thoughts.
Wow. Is that the best setup ever?
I'm not lulling. I have no desire to see this whatsoever. It sounds like I'll watch it and then come home and beat my child. So I really don't see any point in it. And Miley Cyrus, well, because it'll make me sad because it's one of those movies where you see it and you'll see all the things I should have caught as a parent, and I realize I missed that. God damn, she was probably doing that freaky shit.
So you're gonna beat your
This beating
adult
for all
child?
the stuff I've missed.
Exactly. This take it like a champ. Here's for me missing it. It just doesn't look interesting. And Miley Cyrus, she seems like a nice enough girl, even though she's on the internet showing her parts right now. But I just
Wait,
have
where?
she. I have.
Aaron's like, Scott's like, link me?
I have no interest. I just. She doesn't appeal to me in any way, shape, or form. I don't find her attractive. I don't find her interesting. I don't find her riveting. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't care. Demi Moore, I'd rather see this if Demi Moore was still playing a teenage girl. That's how much I don't care about Miley Cyrus.
I do find it interesting, though, that the same person who wrote and directed the original film is doing the American remake, and you don't see that often. So
that's
I'm
right. That is
curious how that's going to translate for her.
Me too. Good point.
All right. Well, and this one doesn't have an RT rating at all. No one has reviewed it, or if they have, it has not been posted. So take that as a sign, considering it's opening really soon. Mm-hmm. The last film on this is The Avengers. I'm sure none of you have ever heard of this movie before, so I'm probably going to have to go into a deep explanation on this one. The Avengers is the 6th installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, written and directed by Joss Whedon. It features, of course, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson. You know, I'm sure Tom Hardy is in there somewhere. In The Avengers, Nick Fury, who's the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., recruits Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, and Captain America to save the world from destruction alongside the Black Widow and Hawkeye. I don't think any more really needs to be said on that, Brian. Go.
Well, I mean, we've more than covered this. It's by far probably the one that we're all going to see. Nothing else relevant is even, releasing the same weekend. That's how everybody else is afraid of this movie. So this is something I've been waiting for since I was 8, 9, 10 years old.
Here's what's so cool about this to me is, again, like the every guy with movies, is all these movies that I've watched, like Iron Man and the Hulk and that kind of thing, they've all got that thing after the credits, that like 45-second bit at the end where Nick Fury like recruits all of these characters to come in, and to now see it all come to fruition is just really, really cool. So
I'm very pumped. I think we've obviously talked about it ad nauseum, and we will continue to do so until we've actually seen it. But
yeah, I mean, every review, every video clip, everything I've seen makes this film look phenomenal. And when I wrote all this up, I checked Rotten Tomatoes, and it was actually at a 97% rating with only one I Need a Hug and some emo face paint rotten review up for it. So whoever that fucker is needs to get over themselves and their need for acceptance or attention from others, because you're doing it wrong.
Don't you always love that? Because they always have that guy. Like, I don't care how perfect the movie seems.
Toy Story 3.
Everybody, yeah, Toy Story 3. There's always some asshole that says, no, that movie was just horrible. I'm sorry, I just didn't like it. Because I'd rather watch something where someone died horribly.
That one guy that gave Toy Story 3 a poor rating gave Jonah Hex a stellar rating.
Yeah, I remember that guy. I just don't understand that logic. I have to jump on the hate bandwagon.
He wants clicks.
I just can't wait for next Thursday, because got my tickets for that all-day Marvel movie marathon. Cannot wait!
I'll be working.
Yeah, I can't wait to actually hear about his marathon. Because you're going to talk about that on the show, I hope. So
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
Or keep it to
Maybe
yourself.
on my other movie show.
Keep it to yourself.
I'm interested to hear
You
what
got another movie show, you son of a bitch? What a whore.
I'm
I never
interested to
said
hear
we were
what
all
the,
monogamous.
What'd you say?
I'm interested to hear about the food situation in the theater experience.
Update on that, actually.
Okay.
My brother and I had originally gotten tickets for this to see it at a Cinemark, which is your standard kind of movie theater, which I'm sure has got some hot dogs and nachos, but mostly popcorn. We actually found out that the Movie Tavern near us, which serves all sorts of food, pizzas, hamburgers, just about everything a restaurant would serve, is doing a Marvel movie marathon as well. So we canceled our tickets at Cinemark, bought tickets for this Movie Tavern marathon. So now we should get some proper effing food.
Nice.
Thank God.
I like
There's
that.
only so much popcorn even I can eat before I'm just chat on
I wonder,
weird science.
are they going to honor free refills for the whole day?
I don't know. We're going to test that.
Refills are down to one free refill now.
Well, that depends on the theater chain.
Yeah.
Maybe one refill per movie or something. I don't know.
But even with that, that's so long though. Throughout the day, I mean, the bottom would just melt out of that wax
true.
cup. You would have to get the cup replaced.
So, of these 3 films, gentlemen, which ones do you want to see? All right, Avengers gets all 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can call it. I'll let you call it.
We're calling this one a winner.
What's this movie?
Each week we have a little clip that one of our hosts decides to pick. Actually, Scott gets double duty because he gets Stump the Hoe and the clip because I screwed up the format this week. So it's not intentional. It's not because he's my favorite, but I figure for all the attacks he's taken over the many weeks, then he's probably got it coming. Last week's answer, by the way, was Mommy Dearest. And apparently it wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it was because Scott M., Dustin B., Jane P., and Sean M. all got it right.
Jane P., huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Everybody got it right. Everybody got it right.
All right. That's it. Next time, we're going way obscure.
And this week it is Scott's pick, and I got to tell you, it's a hard one.
All right, this week we kind of wanted to make it a little bit more obscure, so I kind of went old school a little bit with a movie that was a favorite of mine from many years ago. If you think you know what this movie clip is, be sure to give us an email. The email address is feedback@thehollywoodoutsider.com.
Or you can tweet us at H_outsider.
That too.
Here you go.
What is this thing? It's Ralph. Ralph? Mm-hmm. Robotic assistant labor facilitator. Actually, what he does here is he delivers mail and supplies, and he messes up a little bit every now and then. So, who did you murder to put here maximum security?
No one. I'm a national security secret.
Oh.
All right, if you think you know what that clip was, make sure you email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsider.com or tweet us at H_outsider. If you have any ideas, please send them in. We will try. It's hard for us to keep focused right now because we're all off the rails. So
why not at the H_?
I said. Shit. All right. Let's move on to the couch before we get too crazy. This week in TV home video news, Sci-Fi, which hasn't had a good show since Battlestar Galactica went off the air, in my opinion, is planning some new shows. A haunted real estate show, whatever, and 6 reality shows, 3 of them about hauntings and some scripted projects based on Stephen King. From The Eyes of the Dragon is one of them. John Christopher, who did The Lotus Caves, and also shows based on the Adjustment Bureau film and the DC comic, as Brian was talking about earlier, Booster Gold. I've never heard of any of this, really.
Yeah, I kind of looked at the rundown. There's something, what was it, something like 28 or 30 shows that they've got planned over the next year, which sounds like they must be totally revamping just about everything they show. I mean, it sounds like quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of these 28 or 30 will actually make it, but there's a couple that, to me, that sounded pretty good. There's one they've got called Defiance. I don't know if you guys looked into that too much, but it's a
PC game.
Yeah, it's actually they're releasing the game at the same time. It's an MMO game apparently. Set in the near future, Defiance introduces a completely transformed planet Earth, inhabited by the survivors of a universal war. Forced to cohabitate, the disparate group struggles to build a new society among the devastation.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's you've got, so apparently I did a little bit more research into it, and apparently aliens, their solar system is screwed. They're just boom, they had to leave. So anyway, so they find Earth. They say, hey, we want to live here too. We tell them no. They get pissed off, says, fuck you, we'll take it. So they send these terraformers down and start changing the world. Now that it's just about ruined, they say, hey, we got a little truce going on. Let's all live in peace. And so this is kind of where it picks up, is after this ceasefire, so to speak. So it's directed by Scott Stewart, who did Legion and Priest. So he's got a little sci-fi-ish experience behind him.
Yeah,
I'm really leery, though, of sci-fi doing Eyes of the Dragon. I mean, given the just abysmal fucking movies they make, I don't want them taking Eyes of the Dragon and completely shitting on a really good book to make yet another sci-fi crap movie.
I agree. They haven't made a good movie or show in a long time.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I have a hard time getting excited about anything on sci-fi because literally Battlestar is the only thing I've ever watched on that show. Other than maybe, did they play Firefly refunds on that? I don't even know.
Yeah, but they didn't make
I like Eureka well enough, and I actually think Warehouse 13 is a pretty decent show, but 3 shows out of everything they've ever done is just a piss poor rating.
And anytime they talk about a movie, I get really concerned because,
Oh, God, yeah.
Mechana-Shark versus Octagon, and, it's just, it makes no sense. Everything I do makes no sense. So.
And I realize it's TV, and they are a smaller channel, so I understand budgets and everything, but the special effects for some of these movies is absolutely horrible. I've seen better stuff done by students.
It's like Richard Grieco with the squirt gun fighting an octopus. It's basically somebody's mom waving.
That was created by Debbie Gibson or something.
Yes. Well, we'll find out. Apparently, they got they got an influx of money, so we'll see what happens. Fox is acquired a show called Axe Cop for a new Saturday night animation block that's going to be between 11 and 12:30.
This just seems like such an odd move for Fox. Number one, a couple weeks ago, weren't we talking about how there's no new shows on weekends?
Yeah, and all
anymore.
They're going like the Saturday Night Live late night route.
All of a sudden, they're going to go the Adult Swim route. Like the appeal for Adult Swim, like comedy block or cartoon block or whatever, is that the places they go on that are a little bit more racy than your typical network show or a network is willing to go. So unless this goes like an Archer route or something like that, I don't see this being good at all. Especially Axe Cop. What's interesting about a cop going? I don't know.
Years ago they pretty much, Fox had a pretty good run on Saturday nights for a while. With wasn't in Living Color, a Saturday night show. Mad TV was on there. I don't know if they actually beat out Saturday Night Live, but they had a pretty strong following for a decent amount of years.
10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
No, longer than that, really.
Yeah, 10, 15.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, but they've done it before, I guess is where I'm going with it. And they've got to come up with something else to I guess, get viewers and stuff. I don't know. So
well, we'll see what happens. More interesting news to me anyway. Sons of Anarchy creator Kurt Sutter is launching a show called Outlaw Empires on the Discovery Channel. It's supposed to follow the roots of organized crime.
Yeah, it looks interesting, and I'm a bit of a Kurt Sutter fan. He does. Sons of Anarchy is one of my favorite shows that's still currently, it's not presently in season, but the next season's coming up soon. I love that show. He was a producer on The Shield. So, and from interviews he's done and things I've heard, Kurt Sutter's run with some pretty dark crowds. And so I think if anybody can, kind of dive into who these crime families are, these organizations, and he's talking about doing shows about the Crips and the Irish Mob, Italian Mafia, Aryan Brotherhood, bikers, of course. It makes sense, and I think the guy can bring a real sense of drama to it and verisimilitude. The guy's a good dude, and I think nobody else could probably do it as well as he can.
I basically encapsulated everything I wanted to say. So there you go. Bam.
Boom.
Bam. What's coming out on DVD, Scott?
Let's see. This is for the week of May 1st. We've got New Year's Eve, Joyful Noise, Haywire, not to be confused with the sci-fi novel written by Jess McCumber, W.E., Level Up, the movie, Covert Affairs, Season 2.
Who's in Haywire? Is that Gina Carano?
I think it's Carano. Someone might yell at you for saying that wrong.
Thank God another week I don't have to buy a DVD. Saving money.
Ooh, yeah. Hit me with that unknown shit. Flashback.
All right, so next we're going to go on to our flashback DVD section. This is where each week one of the Hollywood Outsider podcasters brings a DVD or Blu-ray to the table that's a little bit lesser known, obscure, that we kind of want our viewers and those here at the table to get a chance to check out. So this week it's Justin's turn. So Justin, go ahead and sell us your movie, brother.
Well, I'm not doing a movie this week. A long time ago, I talked about a television show that didn't even last a full season, and then I wanted to make people aware of. I'm going to do so again this week. Again, this is a show didn't go past one season, and for that, I will always be sad. It's a show called Wonder Falls, created by Todd Holland, and more importantly for me anyway, Brian Fuller. It's a really quirky little comedy. It came out in 2004. I'm not exactly sure how many episodes it had. 8, maybe 14, somewhere in that range. It's certainly not a full season. But the show is about a young woman played by Carolyn, and pardon me, I cannot pronounce her last name, DeVarnes, who played a character named Jane Taylor, who works at a tchotchke store at the Niagara Falls. And one day she gets this little mutated looking lion creature out of one of their vending machines, and it starts talking to her. And as it talks to her, each show, some random inanimate object will talk to her and ask her to help solve whatever problem a certain character in the show is going to be facing, and helping them, kind of helping herself. And it was just this really quirky look at what do you do when you suddenly find yourself being given otherworldly information and being urged to do things. Are you crazy? Is there really something going on? And the interactions between her and her family, and how do they react to it? It's incredibly quirky, very whimsical, very fun. And, I would expect nothing less than that from Brian Fuller, who did Pushing Daisies. He did Dead Like Me. The guy is phenomenal. I've loved almost everything I've ever seen him do, and this show is one of them. It's not a long show. You're not going to have to invest a whole lot of time or money into it, but it is available on DVD. It's one of those DVDs that I will probably never get rid of unless somebody comes out with another version of it on another medium. I won't risk losing it. I love it. It's so fun, so quirky and original. Fantastic show.
And that's Wonder Falls, and you can always find the link on our website, thehollywoodoutsiders.com. So thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Let's go to From the Outside In. That's where each week we talk about a topic that's on ours, our listeners' minds. And this week it's from a reader's email, or listener's email. I guess they don't really read, do they? One of our listeners writes in, "Da hose," which I think is kind of funny. "After listening to episode 38, I was super excited to see Cabin in the Woods. As a big Joss Whedon fan, I was even more pumped to see the film. In the end, I left feeling that this was a great movie, but not 9.0 amazing, because as you guys remember, we all gave it a 9. I myself would give this a good solid 7 out of 10. One of the better horror/slasher films. See what I did there? I have seen in years. However, I wouldn't have considered this a revolutionary film that literally raised the bar. So I would like to ask the hose a question. Do you think this film stands up with other groundbreaking films such as The Matrix, or even other classic horror films like Silence of the Lambs or Evil Dead? Would you give these a lower rating equal to or a perfect 10? Dustin. So let's answer his question fairly, and then we'll go into our topic about what makes a perfect 10. Who wants to take it first? Justin, I'll let you, since you...
Well, the trouble with rating anything is that so much of what goes into that rating is pure opinion, and what I can see as a 9 and you see as an 8 can vary by just me finding something a little more funny. So I have a hard time trying to create a hard and fast rule system for what a film must or must not do to be a 10 or a 9 or an 8. I thought it was a 9 because, one, I think Joss Whedon's writing is incredible. I love the dialogue he creates. I gave it a 9 because it went in directions that I never saw coming. And so many stories they do these days are either remakes of something that I already know, so I know where they're going, or they put so little imagination but that I can see where they're going. So just to be surprised in a movie is wonderful these days. But mostly what I like that it did is that it took the horror genre and it flipped it on its head in a way that maybe like Scream didn't do, in that it really exposed a lot of problems that horror films have these days: lack of imagination, lack of smarts in the writing. But it made fun of horror, but not in a making fun of it in a bad way, but really it's like joking with someone as opposed to joking at someone's expense. I thought it was daring. I thought it was fresh. I thought it was original, and it was incredibly well written. And because of that, it deserves a 9 in my opinion. I don't understand how you could find it being, well, I can't say I can't understand you not, but for me, a film that does all those things warrants a 9. Whereas most films phone shit in, and then they rely on fantastic special effects or one charismatic lead to carry the rest of it on those shoulders. This film didn't do that one bit. That deserves a 9.
While I'll echo what you're saying, Justin, about my feelings of the film, one of the things that I kind of understand where Dustin's coming from is when you go into a movie, you have a certain expectation, and that kind of can ruin your perception of the film. The four of us went into this movie expecting to see a good movie. Me personally, I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Again, I'm not as huge of a Joss Whedon fan, but the fact that I was so surprised at how much I did like it made me like it all that much more. That said, the four of us kind of knew that this movie wasn't going to be a huge hit, or kind of, I would say at least expected this movie to not make a ton of money, not be as widely accepted as typical slasher movies or Three Stooges, apparently. But so with that being said, we kind of probably gave it higher ratings because we want more people to see this kind of movie.
No,
don't say that at all.
No,
don't speak for me on that.
Yeah, don't speak for me either. I will jump in on that one and say,
okay,
here's one point he was trying to make, and I understand what he's saying. To some degree, he's trying to say, well, 10 should be reserved for the absolute best movie you've ever seen, which I don't necessarily agree with, because I think 10 should be, this was a perfect movie-going experience for me. Everything that's critical is subjective, just like Justin was saying. I don't think it's fair to ever tell anyone that their opinion is wrong. And even though I can't tell Justin he's wrong any more than he should tell me I'm wrong, even though he tells me I'm wrong all the time. But we shouldn't, because it's an opinion. An opinion is totally subjective. All I wanted to do is guide people and let them know, hey, you listen to the show, you know what my tastes are by listening to the show. So therefore, here's what I would rate it. Here's what I personally feel like it is. Now, he references The Matrix, which I don't feel is really fair, because they're totally different kinds of experiences. And I wouldn't rate Matrix a 10, because me personally, it's not a perfect movie for me. I really like it. I think it was revolutionary at the time, but if you go back and look at it, it's not a great movie. Evil Dead.
What?
In my opinion, I'm talking about my opinion.
Okay,
I think,
which we've established is wrong. Okay.
Yes. I would give it a 9.0 as well. Evil Dead, if you look at it now, it's totally not a fantastic movie. It's not, because it's 30 years old. I mean, it's all a matter of when you saw it and what the product was. Now, trying to say that something's revolutionary, that's a product of popularity. It really is. If Matrix wouldn't have been popular, it wouldn't have revolutionized shit. Because Wanted was very similar. It didn't revolutionize anything, and it had a lot of new concepts in it. But it just wasn't nearly as popular, so therefore it didn't revolutionize anything. Now, Scream, that revolutionized horror. It changed how horror was made. And that's because it came out, it was very popular, perceived very well, changed the rules a little bit, so therefore a lot of movies followed suit. This movie didn't cause that because it wasn't popular. Well, popular doesn't really mean anything to me. I don't review movies based on how popular they are. I review them based on when I go to see them, what experience did I have. Cabin in the Woods was definitely a 9 out of 10 for me. I thought it was the best horror movie I've seen in a long time. And he even says that it's probably one of the best movies he's seen in a couple of years. To me, I would think if that's the case, it should be rated higher. But it's his own personal scale, and he can see it however he wants to. I just don't see it that way.
And let me backpedal a little bit. I don't mean to say that we rate movies, me or any of the three of you, rate movies based on wanting other people to see it. But we talked and gushed so much about this movie, and we want more people to see this movie. So let me rephrase what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we give a movie a score based on getting people to watch it, but we all really want a lot of people to see this movie. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I was actually surprised that it didn't do better. I was actually kind of blown away that it didn't. I don't know about you guys. I mean, maybe y'all thought it was going to do pretty low, but I thought it was going to be one of the bigger, actually the bigger one of the weekend. But
I thought it was going to get a surge after people talked about it, and I was wrong.
It's 91% positive on RT. So I mean, it's 9 out of 10 on RT average. So it's not just us. but go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I mean, but kind of to answer his question, I don't really think it's a groundbreaking movie. It's I consider it more of an homage to multiple, I guess, really just the horror genre in general. And I like the way they told the story. It's real twisty, kind of like Justin. You know, you knew going into it that it wasn't a straight on horror movie, and you knew there was some sort of possibly government type twist to it. But all of that's established in the first 5 to 10 minutes, and the rest of it is a ride that you're not real sure about.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that part of it. That, okay, I went into this having certain preconceptions, and I was right, but that only covered the first 10 minutes of the movie. And so the rest of it, I'm kind of going, where are they going to go next? Where are they going to, what are they going to do next? So it was, and that's part of the experience. That's why I give it a 9, and it's not necessarily because it's it's introducing new effects like maybe The Matrix or Jurassic Park or something like that. But it was just a fun ride. That's why I gave Fast 5, I believe, a perfect 10 last year, because it was such a fun ride. Now, is that one of the greatest movies of all time? No. But
it's the most fun one you saw last year.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
And it's not even close. Yeah. So.
And to play devil's advocate about Justin's point here a little bit, is the fact that the way we enjoy this movie a credit to the movie's quality or to the way that it was presented to us from like a marketing aspect? Would you have liked this movie as much if we had gone into it seeing scenes from the third act of the movie? Do you think that would have made us like it any less or any more?
No, I don't think that mattered at all. I've seen it twice now, and I felt the same way the second time.
Okay.
So
I think it's a little unfair to unfortunately, movies are one of those art forms that are very much a product of their time, and it's very hard. And I think it's unfair to look back on certain films and try and judge them for what they are then as opposed to what things have done now. And a film like The Matrix, which at the time, I didn't know anyone who had ever seen a movie that looked remotely like that one, because it did so many incredibly cool and interesting things. Since then, it's been ripped off and borrowed from to the point that it can't help but kind of pale a little bit given what's come later. So film has to kind of be judged somewhat on the time in which it's made, and looking back on certain films and trying to judge them after the fact is a little unfair. But I feel like with Cabin in the Woods, I went into it expecting to like it, and I came out really liking it. I think it's also fair to say that there are people who go into these sorts of films expecting, as much as I may be accused of overliking a film to hype it, I think there are a lot of people who will underhype a movie or give it crap strictly because they've got some kind of either agenda with that movie or the people in it, or they just want to be one of those kids that gets attention for not liking something everyone else does. There are arguments that can be made on both sides of overhyping and underhyping a film. I just liked it because it was fucking smart. And so few films these days are. It was not a by-the-numbers movie.
Yes, and I think by the same token, a lot of people probably go to the movie and don't like it because they wanted to see a slasher flick at a cabin. Like your typical Evil Dead type film. I think a lot of people wanted to see that. They wanted to see rednecks killing people in the cabin, and they didn't see that, and they came out pissed off because it's not that kind of movie at all. And by the same token, it's whatever you take out of it. Sure, marketing's going to create your expectations. You're going to go in, you're going to expect one thing or another, and your like of that film might be deterred or increased by that marketing. But me personally, I've seen it. I went in with the hype factor because it was my most anticipated movie of the year. Because I'm a huge horror fan. I love horror movies above any other genre. For whatever reason, I'm sick, I'm twisted, or I hate life, whatever it is. I went in, saw the movie. I had my personal reaction to it. Sat on it, did the review on the podcast. I feel comfortable with it. Went and saw it again. My opinion didn't change. I thought it was just as good a movie. And I knew everything about the movie. It just gave me, actually made me enjoy it more because I did still feel the same way. Because, you know what? Thankfully, for once, my expectations were met. Mm-hmm. Very rarely are they met. So, and I will say there's been a pretty decent run for the last couple of months of movies that I have gone to see that have actually turned out to be pretty decent. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen an overly, bad movie since Act of Valor. Mm-hmm. So this was
careful
about that film, bro.
Don't want to get the podcast shut down. Sorry. But in terms of what he was asking and what makes a perfect 10, I think of the only one that's actually called a perfect 10 on the podcast, and that was Titanic 3D. And that is very much because of it has a personal attachment to me, because I have a personal history with the movie and when I saw it and what, that kind of stuff. So there's nostalgia there. So I don't think a perfect 10 for everyone has to be, it's the best movie ever. I think, like Justin was talking about, it's a matter of circumstances, the time of the film, what it meant to you. Like The Matrix, when it first came out, I probably would have said it was a 10 hands down. Easy. Mm-hmm. But you look back at it now, and because of, like Justin said, there's so many other duplications of that film and replications and just stealing the crap out of it. It's hard for me to give it that same rating. And the sequels, especially, to me, sorry, Justin, just to me personally, take away from the original because I feel like it brought the level down. So now I would see it more as a 9, even though the film hasn't changed. It's the exact same movie. But the time has changed, and my view on it has changed. Mm-hmm.
For me, when I look at a movie and look at something being a perfect 10, I look at what experience I had. The experience that I had either watching it in a theater or watching it on DVD. My number one movie last year was The Muppets, which, that is the most fun I had in a movie last year. Mm-hmm. Is that a Titanic 3D level-esque movie? No, but I had fun with it. Mm-hmm. I'll be the first to admit that I'm probably have the most difficulty separating my personal experience or personal enjoyment from the actual quality of a film over under the three of you. You guys are more critical and more looking at an art form.
We hate more.
No, I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying that in a negative way towards me. Like I'm more of a person that goes into a movie and relates to the experience that I had. Give you an example. The person that I go see the movie with really affects my enjoyment in it. I saw Cabin in the Woods with somebody that liked it more than I did, if you'd believe it or not. And feeding off of that energy next to somebody makes me enjoy the movie that much better. Conversely, I see a movie with someone that just hates it the entire time, no matter how good the movie is. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to enjoy it. So I base a lot of my score unfairly to the movie's credit on the experience that I had, which is and something else that affects my score is the rewatchability about that. I mentioned that last week a little bit. If I'm never going to watch it again or not have as much fun watching it again, it's going to get a lower score for me a little bit. So what makes a movie perfect for me is how much fun I had watching it and how much more fun I'm going to have watching it in the future.
Brian, what makes a perfect movie for you?
Take me someplace new.
Yeah.
Braveheart and Saving Private Ryan took you into battle in a way that really has never been done before. And admittedly, a lot of my examples have to do with, special effects. Mm-hmm. Because over the last 20 years, there's been some pretty good advances with special effects. And that really kind of blew your mind and said, oh, wow. And like you say, Matrix was one of those. And kind of like you say, it's not as it's not as mind blowing. It's old hat. But at the time, when you're seeing that on the big screen for the first time, you just come out, with your jaw dropped, your eyes are all big, and you're just going, oh my God. Titanic, it made you feel like you were on a sinking ship for 3 hours. Transformers made these robots look like they were really walking around downtown and blowing shit up. But even movies like The Sixth Sense and The Usual Suspects have such good plot twists that they make you want to go back and watch those movies again to find the little clues and that kind of stuff. So anything like that, I guess, is what makes me, kind of really love a movie.
And Justin?
Try. the film and the people involved have to really try and have that passion on the screen. For me, a perfect 10 film, the original Star Wars, Casablanca. For me, The Matrix is probably a perfect 10 film. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. These are all films in which you can tell when you watch it, every single person in front of that camera and behind that camera was giving 100% of everything they had to make an amazing film that was going to take me away and show me something I've never seen or cause me to experience something that I have never experienced before. Most movies don't do that. And a lot of movies don't need to do that. I mean, does Think Like a Man need to do that? Certainly not. And so I don't fault a movie for not doing that. I fault it when you can tell, though, that the people behind and in front of the camera are just half-assing it. At least give everything you've got to make it good. And if you can do that and then show me something special, then you're going to get a 10 from me.
All right. Well, Dustin, I hope that answered your question. And if anybody else has any ideas or suggestions for topics, be sure to email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Now, let's go to Stump the Hoe and get the answer to our question from earlier. Scott, can you repeat the question?
Sure. It was a Joss Whedon-esque question. There are 4 animated feature films that I had listed here, 3 of which Joss Whedon had his hand in some degree, one of which he did not. The question was, which of the following films did he not have his hand in? The first was Iron Giant. The second was Toy Story. The third was Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. And the third was Titan A.E.
I'm dying here.
Brian chose Toy Story, and Aaron and Justin both chose Iron Giant. No surprise, Iron Giant was the one.
What?
Shock.
What?
I can't believe that.
Shock.
I want to
and awe.
recount. And just so you know, Brian, he was nominated for an Oscar for Toy Story. Just a heads up. Just a little heads up. Just so you know.
Again, I don't suck the seed of Joss like you two clowns.
I really was hoping Lion King 2 was going to throw somebody off, but apparently that didn't.
No, because that was too obscure. I mean, it just seemed like that would be one that you threw in just to try to throw us off.
Yeah.
Okay, that is our show. Next week we are going to have reviews of The Raven. Not sure how many of us are going to see it, but at least one of us will. And we're going to discuss in our topic whether theater chains should start allowing texting during films to appeal more to youth, because apparently that idea has been floating around. So be sure to tune back on that. You can find us at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. That's thehollywoodoutsiders.com. And that's just a website for the podcast. We don't actually post like news bits and all that stuff. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thehollywoodoutsiders. Email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Tell your friends, subscribe on iTunes, Zoom, Google Reader, listen on your Stitcher radio app, and give us a thumbs up if you do, or just any plain old RSS feed, or on Twitter, H_outsider. I want to thank each of the podcasters. Mr. Brian Williams.
My pleasure.
Thanks for being here, brother. You can find him on Twitter at @BrianWMS. Mr. Justin McCumber.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you being here and basically not thrashing me most of the time. He is the host of the Dead Robot Society. That's a weekly podcast for writers, or aspiring writers. And he also has a book that's on Amazon. It's available for the Kindle. It's called Haywire. It is not a Gina Serrano movie. It is actually a Justin McCumber book, and it's actually quite good, surprisingly.
Actually, come on.
Actually quite good. It's very good. From what I've read, it's very good. Lots of good reviews. You should check it out on Amazon, and then write a stellar review after you buy it. Right?
Indeed. Write 2.
Right. Yes.
Create another account. Write another.
Yes.
And then buy another copy.
Keep it going, man. Do him a favor.
Scott
3.
he can't buy all my books.
And Scott Clark, thanks for being here, Scotty.
Not a problem, man. Thanks for having me.
He is the host of the Official Thread podcast. That's a monthly podcast for gamers. You can find that on Twitter @Official Thread.
And we are coming back the first weekend of May.
First weekend of May. Official Thread will be back. As for the Hollywood Outsider, we will be back next week, so be sure to tune in. And remember, the next time that you go to the theater, buy popcorn.
Decision for me letting you go. No time to visit, I just wanna go home. able to understand that I'm doing the best I can, and all I know is all I'd rather be home. I'd rather be home. I'd rather be home.
The longest podcast he has happens to be the sex one. Imagine that.
Would have been longer if I was on. You know what I'm saying?
No, it would have been shorter. It would have been very brief.
I hear it's pretty short and uneventful.
Welcome to Brian's Trailer Park.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Yep.
Been ready for half an hour.
Okay.
Bring it.
Fucking get jiggy with it.
Getting jiggy with it.
869, all up in my mind.
This is the Hollywood Outsider. Oh, fucking. I forgot what I was doing.
God, we let you get in.
All right, here we go.
A dumbass with a plan is better than a smartass without one.
Touche.
Even you can make mistakes.
This is the Hollywood Outsider, where, well...
Oh, man.
Here we go. This
Touche.
Are you mic'd in?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We're going to do this prior to those guys getting on with us, right?
Okay.
We're gonna call it. $5 says that once Justin hears Brian's theme song, he requests his own theme song.
Are you recording this?
Yep.
Okay.
We're calling it.
We're calling it.
And if he does, this will make it into the outtakes. And then when he listens to it, he'll go, "You sons of bitches."
Are we gonna put money on this, or
I'll bet you 1 gold penny.
1 gold penny? You can give me 2 to 1 odds at least, or
I'll give you 20 to 1 because it's Justin. What do you think?
I'm at 20 to 1, sure, but I feel pretty confident.
Do you? You
Yeah.
feel pretty confident?
I do feel pretty confident.
Oh, we'll find out.
Yeah.
If you guys are hearing this, guess who demanded their own theme song?
You're welcome, Justin.
You're welcome, Justin. And of course, we love you.
Yep, we love you, Justin.
Mwah. Now do your fucking theme song.
Hard not decision for me letting you go. No time to visit, I just wanna go home. You're never to understand that I'm doing the best I can, and all I know is all I'd rather be home. I'd rather be home. I'd rather be home. You said my love is blind, just got